Demographic number one, the conscious community. Black conscious community. You mean to tell me the black conscious community, when they hear rap songs where they're calling women bitches and hoes, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? Oh, that's cool. I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to buy that. No. Conscious community are like, no, we're not going to play that. Okay, well, entertainment industry say, oh, okay, what we'll do is we'll create some music for you too, so that you consume. Might make sense. Two groups that we're going to deal with. One is Public Enemy and their album Yo Bum Rush the Show, but we're also going to look at a few other of their albums. And the other one is Boogie Down Production, BDP, Criminal Minded. These two groups are supposed to be, quote unquote, the forerunners for so-called conscious hip-hop. But were they really? Were they really conscious? That's the critical question. See, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. There is projection, there is perception, and then there's reality. Okay? Projection is what I tell you I'm about. Okay, so I can be anything. And if you believe me, that's your perception. But is it real? Is it reality? See, I can say I'm all about family. You can believe me, but is that true? Do you know that for sure? Well, I can say, yes, I do. I know that for sure. But do you know that for sure? So part of what the entertainment industry has done, especially through hip-hop, is they give you a projection of something. They expect you to perceive it as they give it to you, even if it's not real, and then for you to accept it as reality. But the critical question is it real? Is it true? And in order to find out that answer, you must use your critical thinking. And that's what I did with these. I actually went through Public Enemy, 6 of their albums, line for line, lyric for lyric.
No.
Yes, and figured out how much of the content was actually conscious. And I did the same thing with Boogie Down Production and KRS-One, and I looked at line for line. I have to have on headphones for this because I didn't want my children hearing this. My sons, they asked me, Daddy, what's hip hop? Oh, don't even worry about it, son, because I want to raise you into a man. So don't even worry about it. That's like my son asking me, can I have a hamburger? Like, no, you can't have a hamburger. We got some greens up in here. I have some today. Got to thank my wife. Okay, okay. So this is demographic number one, the conscious community. Demographic number two, the crossover community. So the entertainment industry was like, okay, it's not enough for us just to get to certain black pop demographics. We want to pull in, we want to cross over into white people too. That's why you got in Europe white males who are calling each other niggas.
What? Europe?
Yes.
Detroit.
And in Africa, and in Asia, and in Japan, and in Antarctica. How is that possible? That's because they tapped into cross, and that's how they really make a lot of money. Crossover. And there's particular groups that were brought along in order to execute that. This is a globalization of a musical form, but the intent was not to uplift people. The intent was global mind control. So that you have people on this side of the planet calling each other niggas and calling each other bitches and hoes. What? Where you live? Where are you from? Where you live? I'm from Amsterdam, my nigga. What? That's mind control. That don't make no sense. Okay? Okay, so one of the groups we're going to get into, actually we'll get into in part 4. Because today we're just going to deal with the conscious community. Is Run DMC Raising Hell, that album, automatically that should give you guys throw a red flag right there. Raising Hell. Traditionally, black folk, we didn't play with this kind of stuff. Okay, when we talk about heavy metal and the satanic influence in heavy metal, if any of y'all have heard heavy metal, we didn't play that stuff. And our mamas were like, no, I don't think so. And our daddies were like, no, I don't think so. Even the thugs were like, no, I'm not listening to that. Even they knew. So part of what happened was the infusion of heavy metal and hip hop so they can tap into the crossover community. Now white people were more inclined to listen to it. And vice versa too. They did it. They went both ways. One of their songs is "Walk This Way," one of the most popular quote unquote hip hop songs, and it's an infusion of heavy metal and quote unquote hip hop with the group Aerosmith. And yes, sir.
Well, what are the lyrics like?
Oh, we're gonna get into the lyrics because that's what I like. I like to do the lyrical analysis. Okay. Another group that was out was De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising, and And one of the dynamics about De La Soul is there was a segment of the population that were like, wait a minute, this hip hop stuff is too black for me. I'm not going to listen to this. This is kind of too ghetto. And these guys up here dancing like this and dressing. No. This is too much. Black people and white people. No, this is thuggery. This is, they're like savages. So what they do is, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to water it down a little bit. And this group, De La Soul, was that one of the groups that was done to kind of water it down, to present to the consumer market a less aggressive black male, or a version of the less aggressive black male. So it's more palatable to a particular segment of the population. Okay. Now all this has to do with consumer markets, and they have nothing to do with trying to help people or uplift people. It's about tapping into new sources and new revenue streams. Demographic number 3, the younger audience of hip-hop fans. This was called the new school, and one of the signature aspects or expressions of that was the ghetto blaster or the boombox radio. Y'all remember that? It's the big box, they hold them like this, have it blast and just tearing up their eardrum.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. That's mind control, because under normal circumstances you won't do that damage to yourself and walk around holding this big old heavy box. That's mind control. And people all over the planet were walking around doing this. Okay, and the rapper who epitomized this was LL Cool J, James Todd Smith. And let me say something. LL Cool J was in fact a prodigy. And if there was one rapper who was going to turn hip-hop around, he would have been the dude. He was an absolute, I want to say genius, but I don't want people to overstate. But let me say that he was an absolute prodigy. And when we get into him in Demographic 3 and part 4 of this lecture, I show evidence and proof of this. He was electric. Demographic number 4, the gangster community. See, most real gangsters, they weren't trying to listen to the for instance, we analyze la-di-da-di, we like to party, we don't cause trouble, we don't bother nobody. Where Slick Rick is talking about he likes to take bubble baths and get the files from my fingernails and put on what else was it? Cologne and just the whole effeminate archetype. Gucci underwear. Yeah. Most gangsters like, no, I'm not feeling that. I don't want to hear that. So what they have to do, we have to create a new subgenre of rap music in order to tap into that demographic. And one of the groups was Eazy-E, Easy Does It, NWA, Niggas with Attitudes. Also, Ice-T, Rhyme Pays. But were they real gangsters? Absolutely not. That's right. And Ice-T was an actor. He was never even a rapper. He was an actor from the beginning. But again, perception, they project him a certain way. And if you perceive him as they project him, then you accept him as reality, even though he's not. Demographic number 5, the pornographic sex predator, i.e. pimp demographic. Yes. For all folk who was still stuck on the whole black exploitation films, we want to tap into that demographic as well. So why don't we go ahead and create music and subgenres within hip-hop, which many hip-hop heads don't want to claim now. We'll create, and what it's dealing with is debauchery and a predatory orientation towards women and a total, utter, and disrespect of the feminine principle. Look at this. And one of the groups, and this is the one that's a straight up abomination, was 2 Live Crew. Another artist was Too Short, Born to Mac, as in Mac Daddy. Wasn't there a movie in this, That's right.
That's Northern California.
That's right. I even said this. The black exploitation films were the precursors to hip-hop. Hip-hop was the next phase of that. Demographic number 6, the down low male homosexual community. Now, I know some people are going to get upset. But understand, we all get in play, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual. To the entertainment industry, you simply represent a new demographic to tap into. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. What matters to them is money. So they created sub-genres within hip-hop to tap into the down-low male homosexual community. These are the down-low, when I say down-low, these are the males who are not outwardly expressing their homosexuality. And as you all know, in the black community, homosexuality for a long time was so taboo. Not only do you not talk about it, but if you are homosexual, you stay in the closet. Okay, things have changed nowadays, but for the most part, that was the orientation for a long time. So they wanted to tap into that particular demographic in 2 groups, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble. What?
good catch.
You should see how many songs are like this in hip hop. Talking about what are you talking about? Girls ain't nothing but trouble. My wife is nothing but trouble? First of all, she's a woman in the first place. And if you're dealing with girls, that means you're a boy, dude. So have you come into manhood? Absolutely not. And if you haven't come into manhood, then you can't claim leadership, so you should shut your mouth. Hip hop, you don't stop. Another group was Kid and Play, 2 Hype. They get together and they all dress the same way. They both dress the same way, have the same haircut, and they're working on dances together. You ain't gonna catch me doing that with other dudes. Because I have a family at home and children at home. And I'm a man. Demographic number 7, the lesbian feminist community. Yes, they want to tap into that market as well. Queen Latifah, ladies first. A lot of people they perceived us to be like about black liberation. What do you mean ladies first? So if I say men first, what, people going to get pissed off, right? Why not say babies first? Or my children are first, or my family's first? See, this sets up a construct of division within the family institution where someone perceives himself to be ahead of someone else. And me and my wife, we work as a team. I don't dominate, she don't dominate. We got babies. You ain't got no time to be playing those kind of games when you got babies. There's work to do. Another one was MC Light as a rock. And the last demographic, and there's plenty more, but these are the major ones. Demographic number 8, the whore glorification / black self-hate demographic. To glorify whores, or to have young girls perceive a whore archetype as being an honorable institution and something to aspire towards. Now back then the group was Salt and Pepper. Y'all remember that song, Push It? Yeah. Push it. Push it real good. Yes, sir.
Did these black hip-hop celebrities realize, or were they aware that they were being used?
Some probably did, but most did not, because they were children in the first place.
And let me just add, you should see part 1 and part 2 of this presentation. He addresses it.
Yes. Yes. Many of them, they had no idea. Many of them didn't have any idea. Some of them kind of knew, but these are just, they're babies themselves. Okay? Now, that doesn't absolve them for the damage that they've done, but I do recognize that reality. You know, they're babies. I mean, look at this sister right here. When she did her first rhyme, she was like 13. So Salt and Pepper, push it real good. And see, projection. What we're going to do is we're going to give them hats or kufus that have African designs on them. Even though they're singing push it, that side, I Am Down, in a song called Tramp. But you give people a perception that somehow this is honorable, the whore glorification archetype. Now, what's interesting is if you ask the younger people now to go back and look at this group, they'll look at it and they're like, oh, this is no big deal, because now what they have is totally extreme compared to this stuff. But still, we got to recognize where it began. And this is in part where it began. The whore glorification coming through Salt and Pepper. And then the last one is the black self-hate demographic. Roxanne Shante versus Sparky D round 1. This right here, it's not only is it troubling, but it also speaks to the reality that the entertainment industry recognizes that there is a demographic of the population amongst black people where self-hate and self-loathing is actually a demographic in and of itself. How deep is that? So for those of us who hate each other and call each other niggas and bitches and hoes, and you know your hair is nappy and you're light skinned and I'm dark skinned and I can't stand you and your mama is this. Remember your mama jokes?
Dozens.
Playing the dozens, which is what hip hop in to a large degree is all about. I'll provide evidence and proof of that. That's dealing with black self-hate. And the entertainment industry said, yeah, we want to tap into that demographic. How deep is that? When we get to this right here, this will be towards the end of this lecture series. When we get to this, when this comes out and I show you all this, it's absolutely mind-boggling. However, we're going to start with demographic number 1, the conscious community.